I'm here with Jimmy Korderas. We're coming out of WWE's Extreme Rules event. A number of different topics to discuss coming out of this show. Obviously, the big one was they used this show to bring back Seth Rollins, set up that title program with Roman Reigns coming out of the show. In terms of just the handling of the return and what we saw Raw Monday night, how did you feel that they handled the return of Rollins?
I thought they handled it very well. I'm a little bit surprised that it happened so soon, but I thought it went very well. And I like the fact that on Monday night on Raw, Seth Rollins was able to take that crowd. You knew he was going to get a positive reaction when he came back. But for him to actually turn the crowd, that speaks volumes to the talent of Seth Rollins on the microphone to be able to do that in this day and age.
Yeah, and I think that that's when you look at just the roster at this point, they're very shallow at this point on top heels. So I think seeing him come back in that role, yes, there was that comeback story, but at the same time, you need opponents for Reigns, and Rollins certainly fit that category in terms of having a top heel, which, again, Jimmy, they don't have a ton of them at this moment.
Absolutely, and it's a natural rivalry built right in. Obviously, someone who didn't lose the title physically to anybody else, he lost it, had to relinquish during injury, so it makes perfect sense. Former Shield members.
Absolutely. So they get to that match, but looking at Sunday night's event, obviously it was paced by two really strong matches. We had the four-way Intercontinental title match and then the main event. Starting there, Roman Reigns, AJ Styles. We know that AJ Styles had been dealing with an ankle injury and missing the house shows the weekend prior. However, this was an outstanding performance, I think, by both individuals. Yes. This was a super hot match. Roman Reigns keeps the title. They saved the angle with Rollins for after the match, which I think was a positive. But the match as a whole, what did you like?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought the pacing was great. I thought the storytelling in the match is phenomenal. Pun intended. I mean, AJ Styles just proved that he belongs anywhere he goes. He fits right in. He's that damn good. And for all the Roman Reigns naysayers out there, I think he handled himself more than adequately and proved that he belongs in the spot he's in as well.
And where do you see AJ Styles being spun off into?
Well, obviously playing off the club split is where it seems to be going. Maybe it leads down the road again. Fantasy Booker cap goes on, where AJ finds a mystery partner to go against his former club mates, ends up being possibly another club member in Finn Balor, and maybe Finn Balor turns on AJ and sides with the club, and we have a new.
There are a lot of possibilities.
Like Balor Club. I mean, the T-shirt's out there.
Yeah, when you throw that in, and on top of that, I mean, AJ Styles has been here not even 6 months, and it's been Chris Jericho and Roman Reigns. So it's a ton of fresh opponents for him as well.
Yep.
With all of these names coming back, there's a lot of different programs for this guy. I think he's the top performer on the main roster at this point in the entire company at this point. So I think you do have many different options where you can go down with them. Now, the four-way Intercontinental title match, I think going into this, I think everyone was optimistic about this match, but it, to me, greatly exceeded expectations. We had The Miz keeping the Intercontinental title, but this was a great performance. It was an excellent four-way, which, Jimmy, you've been in the middle of these. They can often be very tricky to balance when you have all of those bodies and keeping everything on the same page, and it can be very difficult at times. These four did an outstanding job.
Yeah, outstanding is in my opinion, it's an understatement to say outstanding. And what I loved about this match was every person in that match had an opportunity to shine and show why they belong where they are today. Kevin Owens, again, for me, the MVP throughout this whole scenario. I see big things for him, and I know you're high on Kevin Owens as well. But everybody performed, and I love the fact that Miz actually was a heel, and a heel victory that actually worked.
Now, if that was the good, maybe the pendulum was kind of evened out with the first and probably last Asylum cage match involving Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho. I think this was a very ill-conceived idea from the get-go. I think throwing comedy weapons and then building a 26-minute match around it was just a bad recipe. This crowd had no interest in this until the tax spots at the end. And this thing just died live. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, and it's tough, especially following that outstanding four-way match. That's a tough bill to follow. But you're right, it didn't work. It was one of those things where maybe, you're looking at it, oh, it looks great on paper.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, well, some people might have thought that. I didn't.
I just think that there were way too many opportunities that they took in the buildup of this where it was just going for the cheap laugh and always keeping this with, you couldn't really get into this very seriously, right down to the weapons they introduced, and we're looking at plants and mops, and it was just, To me, it was just a silly premise that the performers couldn't overcome.
Yeah, it's like you mentioned on our preview before. It's wacky Dean Ambrose as opposed to crazy, unpredictable Dean Ambrose. I don't like the wacky Dean Ambrose.
What do you do with Dean Ambrose at this point? Because he's at a bit of a standstill at this point, coming off the Brock program and this one as well.
Yeah, I think coming off both programs, he didn't seem to benefit and get a jump and a boost from either one of them. So do you hit the reset button with Dean Ambrose? I don't know. Maybe I don't see him winning Money in the Bank at the next pay-per-view. So maybe a reset for Dean Ambrose. Maybe keep him off TV for a little bit and for a little refreshing.
Charlotte kept the women's title, defeating Natalya in the submission match. I had a lot of high expectations for this match, and this was not the match where they were going to go out and have their 20-minute classic blow off to the program. Instead, it was largely to set up an angle, which I did understand. They want to pair Dana Brooke now with Charlotte, and have pretty much written off Ric Flair at this point. What did you think about the angle as well as the following night, which seems to have eliminated Ric Flair from the act?
Yeah, well, I kind of felt that Ric Flair was going to be eliminated from the act sooner or later. I don't know if I like the pairing with Dana Brooke and Charlotte. I'm going to take the wait-and-see attitude because right now, in my mind, I don't see how this is going to work, or work well at least anyways.
As Jimmy would say, if it ain't Brooke, don't fix it.
See, you can't write this stuff.
Final thoughts on Extreme Rules. Was there anything else that stood out for you? We had a number of other matches. We had the Tornado match, which I think had it been given more time, I think really could have grown into something. And the tag title match. The tag division right now, it feels like while we have a plethora of teams, we don't really have many challengers. And the Vaudevillains were kind of just blown out here with this what felt like a one-match program.
Yeah, and it's that same old story. You think that the tag team division is rejuvenated and looks like it's taking steps forward, but it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back all the time.
Well, that was Extreme Rules. I think with those 2 matches, hard not to say a thumbs up just because of those 2 matches alone.
Definitely makes it a 2 thumbs up then.
So they will be back Sunday, June the 19th with the Money in the Bank show, which is always a very popular show, heading into Las Vegas, Nevada at the brand new T-Mobile Arena. For Jimmy Korderas, I am John Pollock, and that is your look at WWE Extreme Rules.